was 1996. And you've been in public service all your life, some 35 and a half years in the Congress. You kind of wonder what you're going to do the next day, because I voluntarily left the Senate. And next thing I knew, I was making a couple of commercials. And I didn't bring any samples. One guy's already asked me. Yeah. It's hard to carry Pepsi around in your pocket, but in any event, we put together a couple of books. I may have said this when I was here before. I don't think the books were published at that time. One was called Great Political Wit, and the subtitle was Laughing Almost All the Way to the White House. And it became a bestseller. And the one story that's short that I tell that you've probably heard a dozen times is a tribute to Winston Churchill, who was at a big dinner one night in London, and he got in a big argument with Lady Astor, or some lady, I don't know which one. And they went back and forth, and she finally pointed at him and said, "Winston, if you were my husband, I would poison your coffee." He said, "If you were my wife, I would drink it." So we had a lot of fun with that. So I decided to try another one called Great Presidential Wit, and the subtitle was, I wish I was in this book. You know. And we went all the way back to George Washington to try to figure out the top 10 presidents when it came to a sense of humor. Sort of like, you know, they do on television, top 10. And I had three fellows who'd worked with me, help me do the research. And we didn't know all the presidents. Some of you in the back may think I'm that old, but I didn't know Washington. But Senator Thurman did, and he was a big help in our book. Yeah, he'd been an intern for Jefferson and met Washington several times. So Strom gets a lot of credit in our book. So we went researched and researched and researched, and we finally came up with the top 10. And number one was Abraham Lincoln. If you think about the times that Lincoln lived and the personal tragedies, and he was described as a tragic-looking figure, he almost used little stories. He told stories every day to sort of get through the day. And he was speaking one night, and a lady jumped up and said, "Mr. President, you're two-faced." He said, "If you think if I had another one, I'd use the one I have." That was his response. So that's 1860s humor. But in any event, number two is somebody you all know in California, was our great beloved late President Ronald Reagan. And he had a great sense of humor. And whether you're a Democrat or Republican, I really don't care. I mean, Reagan had a certain quality about him, that star quality. He didn't keep track of how many people in the cabinet, things like that. But he told me one time, this is a true story, he said, "Why should I try to remember everybody's name in Congress? Only about half of them vote with me anyway." But he walked into a crowd one night, and he was back and forth bantering as he could do so well. He said, "Boy, I've been getting a lot of flack lately since I ordered those B-1s. He said, "How was I to know they're airplanes?" He said, "I thought they were vitamins for the troops." So, but he had that disarming quality that really, in tight spots, really paid off. I'll just mention one other one, Calvin Coolidge, who never said anything. Probably a pretty good rule to follow in politics, but none of us do. He was known as Silent Cal, and he had a dinner one night at the White House, and about halfway through the dinner, the senator's wife reached over and said, "Mr. President, I bet my husband $20 I could get you to say 3 words. He said, "You lose." So we did write a serious book, One Soldier's Story, but that's another, I won't get into that. But, we did lose in 96, and as Tom knows, it's a lot more fun winning. But it's sometimes a good lesson to lose. There are all things in this audience that you've tried to achieve that you haven't quite achieved, and you're probably better for it in many cases, because you learn to accept failure, you learn to get up off your feet or off your back or off whatever, and go back and get into the game. And I recall in 96, I wasn't quite certain what I was going to do, but after the election, wasn't too long after the election, we live in Watergate South, and one night we were going to bed early, and about 20 minutes later, there were lights all over the complex, the front door, the back door, the side door, the garage door, and I said, Elizabeth, there's been a recount.